A day ago, we covered a story that a man brought forward that could possibly be linked to DARPA. Well, we talked about possibly having messing with the food chains and synthetic foods and what they could be doing to it and how they could be putting human growth hormones and stuff to mess with people. Well. Knew something popped up. Something just popped up. And so we figure it might be linked to that story. May not be in name and it may not be in company, but it is in product. This particular group of people were arrested. Some Chinese researchers allegedly plot to smuggle crop killing fungus into US and an attack on our US food supply. So we're going to read the article to find out exactly what they found. National security authorities and members of Congress are raising alarms over an alleged plot by two romantically involved Chinese researchers to smuggle samples of a dangerous crop killing fungus into the U.S. Yuen Kwang Jian, 33, a communist loyalist and lab researcher at the University of Michigan, who received Chinese government funding for her work, plotted the illicit transport of a pathogen with her boyfriend, Zunyong Lui, 34, the FBI alleged. Louis was caught at Detroit Metropolitan Airport last July after allegedly attempting to sneak packages of Fusarium gramineurium. You know what that word, you can read it, into the country, the Fed said. This is an attack on the American food supply, one senior Trump administration official told the Post. The fungus is already present in the U.S., but if it was manipulated to become resistant to treatment or spread more easily, it could have the potential to devastate American farms. Now, if you remember the video we covered yesterday, they showed an awful lot of ways that you can manipulate crops or send things out to destroy crops. If we know we have a certain shortage, you could make it more so. If we have a surplus, you can make it a shortage. If you have something that you're trying to push and you're trying to get to, like with the potatoes that was in that video. Say I want the rest of the potatoes that don't have human hormones in it. I can just say, you know what? We'll poison those. And now you have to use the potatoes that we want you to use. Isolate the market, as it were, because the rest are bad. You kind of saw this too with the cow, mad cow thing, where they would just kill off multiple thousands and millions of cows and kind of only have a select few. We never really knew why all the cows were there, but when the ones that they were using, they seemed more thick, yeah, to put it that. So they looked more, they're bigger. The milk was more abundant, and they're just, well, they're just healthy, but maybe they weren't healthy at all. There were talks about them putting human growth hormones in the cows themselves too, within the meat, so that when they fed it to them, the cows became bigger, more muscular in some cases, and in many cases, they lactated more. So you got more milk, but the milk was so contaminated by the time you drank it, it would do what it had to do to you. Could this have been one of the situations with this as well, that they were trying to manipulate the market when it comes to food and isolate it so that they can only have you eat what they produce? The U.S. should be testing the fungus sample for any evidence it is tampered with, and expert added. There are similar allegations that the virus that caused C19 was enhanced by China's Wuhan Institute of Virology as part of the U.S. funded gain of function research of all naturally occurring SARS pathogen. China denies the C19 leaked from the lab, but U.S. intel agencies now say that appears to be most likely the cause for the pandemic. The CCP will use every tool in its warfare box to cripple the United States and bring us to our knees. A pathogen like this, if successfully introduced to crops, could inflict significant economic loss for the U.S. agriculture producers, which is true. Aside from the economic side, think about the fallout it could have on human health in the U.S. We already have a very unhealthy population. Can you imagine this? We already have a depleted health inventory within the confines of the United States, right? So now you add the limitations of certain types of foods, or you promote something that's healthy but is contaminated. So now you have a contaminated healthy food supply that tells people they're going to get healthy, and then they eat it and then they get worse. And it's only that you can purchase, which also limits, of course, now the economic side of it. It would be a win-win for the enemy all around and a complete loss for the United States. Senator Johnny Ernst, said in an appears that the FBI may have intercepted a potential bioweapon. We are very fortunate that the administration and the federal law enforcement stopped this potential bioweapon before it compromised our nation's food supply. This is exactly why I've always said that we will continue to say food security is national security. Between this latest bioweapon and China's highly concerned purchase of U.S. farmland around a military bases, we must stay on guard against the threat of communist China in our own backyard. Now, think about this. They own more land than almost anybody here in America, outside of Bill Gates. So imagine if they decided to have crops grown here with this stuff in it and try to destroy other crops so that theirs becomes the mainstay. Can you imagine the fallout? Because now they're going to be making money because we have to purchase it from them. And secondarily, anybody eating it, we would now have a population issue because we're all getting sick. According to the feds, the Chinese couple discussed how they would smuggle the drug into the U.S., a biological pathogen considered a potential agro-terrorism weapon, capable of destroying crops and poisoning both livestock and human, according to the criminal complaint filed in federal court in Michigan Monday. Both Yan and Liu were charged Monday in a criminal complaint with conspiracy, smuggling goods into the U.S., false statements, and visa fraud. The bacteria infects wheat, barley, corn, and rice. When it does, it can devastate crops, one national security source who specializes in agriculture microbiology told the Post. We are indeed actually a very dense user of wheat and barley because we drink beer a lot here. The corn and rice, maybe not so much, but a certain diaspora does. There is one particular group that will definitely use a lot of corn and rice. I'll leave that to your imagination to know which diaspora that is. The key question is if the bacterial strain being brought in has been modified to make it resistant to treatment or make it more pathogenic. The source added that it could be dangerous if the Chinese manipulated a strain and that federal investigators should have some genome sequence done on the samples that they allegedly conspired to smuggle into the country. This could now, I'm going to bring some conspiracy into this. Hear me out. If, and I say if this can somehow be linked back to a certain individual, and that individual can then be linked to a different kind of pardon that he received that he can no longer be under because we are thinking somebody else is not who they say they are, then maybe this can actually be traced back to everything that got us in this position in the first place. Could this particular thing go back all the way to Mr. Fauci? Just a thought. On July 27, 2024, Liu, who works as a researcher in Zhejiang University in Hangzhou, arrived in Detroit on a Delta flight from Shanghai and was interviewed by Customs and Border Patrol agents about the purpose of his travel. He claimed he was in the U.S. to visit Yang, a lab researcher at the University of Michigan, whom he identified as his girlfriend. Upon researching his belongings, agents found 4 plastic baggies containing fibrous material infected with the pathogen, as well as a round piece of filtered paper and a series of circles drawn on it, concealed in his backpack in a ball of wadded up tissues. According to the criminal complaint, I'm not sure he even got past the original scan, but again, depending on where he came directly from. According to the criminal complaint, Louis initially denied the items were his, suggesting someone else had to put them in his bag without his knowledge. However, he later admitted that they were in different strains of that particular drug he intended to research at the Molecular Plant Microbe Interaction Laboratory at the University of Michigan, where Jian conducts research on similar pathogens. He also acknowledged he hid the materials when traveling to the U.S. because he knew Border Patrol agents would confiscate them if they were discovered. So he's intentionally, this would be coming down under purposeful and wanton terrorism. Huh. The circle filter paper found in his possession contained 10 separate coded samples, including one that would allow a researcher to propagate live fusarium, the complaint states. Louis told investigators that he planned to clone the different strains and make more samples in the experiments on the bagged materials if the experiments on the bag materials failed. He then was denied entry to the U.S. and fast tracked for removal to China. While searching one of Liu's cell phone, they found an article in PDF form titled 2018 Plant Pathogen Warfare Under Changing Climate Conditions. Authorities said that the article specifically referenced this drug as an example of a destructive disease and pathogen for crops and is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. Now, this could go absolutely crazy if they find what they're looking for. My thought process on this, if I was to use my speculative and the brain side of me that's all about conspiracies, this is just another form of bio warfare that the Chinese are going to try to use to cripple the American economy. Remember, we just left a little war with them, a little tariff war with them. Could this be their way of trying to get back at the United States? This was planned a while ago, though, a whole year ago. This was a long time that they were trying to get this done. Could it have been that they were trying to do this even back during Mr. Trump's first term? Could this be one of those situations where you see people trying to do something on the down low with making it look almost like they had no interaction? Like I said before, though, if Fauci had anything to do with this is a big deal. And I mean a really big deal because it would go back all the way to Wuhan. Don't be surprised if they find these people having had connections to the lab there, and that is why she came over here to use American resources to do the same thing. The FBI interviewed Yang at the MPMI laboratory in February, where she first claimed she will only learn of the alleged smuggling scheme when Liu was caught by the CBP and denied assisting him in his research. Upon searching Jane's cell phone, the FBI said it discovered a document she signed originating from Xinjiang University, where Liu conducts research on the pathogen, which included a loyalty pledge to adhere to the four basic principles and support the leadership of the Communist China Party of China. The FBI Special Agent Edward Nia said that his affidavit that one of the principles Yang signed her allegiance to includes upholding Mao Zedong thought on and Marxist Leninism. Investigators said she signed the document January 11, 2024, just 6 months before Liu allegedly flew to Detroit with the samples in tow. Again, a year. Almost to the date, a full year. So this could have been happening right under their noses and not known had they not even stopped him for whatever reason they did. This could already be on U.S. soil. Not saying that it's not on U.S. soil. Maybe not implemented yet. Maybe they were waiting for a bunch of things to take place before they could even remotely fully implement it. This could have a really big impact on what could happen next. Further investigation into Liu and Jan's communication indicated it wasn't the first time the pair had discussed smuggling the fetid fungus into U.S. Like I thought. One unearthed exchange from August 12, 2022, on the Chinese messaging app WeChat reveals the couple scheming on how to sneak the seeds past U.S. customs officials, with Liu advising Jan to hide, or I'm guessing hide, the materials in her shoes. A day later, Jiang arrived at San Francisco International Airport on a United States flight from Seoul. Authorities reviewed records from her entry and found she did not declare she was importing any biological materials. That doesn't mean she didn't bring it, which could possibly mean it could already be out there in circulation. They may have already done what they were trying to do, and they may be trying to solidify with this next phase, but they may have already started this thing. Rutgers University molecular biologist Dr. Richard Ebright told the Post that Fusarium graminearum causes estimated losses of 200 to 400 million in U.S. agriculture every year. However, he said the fungus has been endemic in the U.S. for more than 40 years, and that new introduction of the organism into the U.S. does not by itself pose a new threat. That would be the original strain. That doesn't mean the enhanced strain. If they were going to try and do any kind of function change to it, we don't know what that would do. That was their plan, to enhance it. So if they did enhance it and they're trying to make it a device that cannot be treated, then his estimating is null and void. It could be 10 times that, absolutely 10 times that. Importation of this drug without the USDA PPQ 526 permit should not have occurred. However, unless the import strain was a new strain having enhanced transmissibility and virulence, its important its importation would likely pose no threat to the U.S. agriculture or U.S. security, he noted, noting that if Jan had gone through proper permitting procedure to obtain the pathogen, it almost certainly would have been approved and arrest would not have occurred. That is crazy to me that she had done it the right way. That would have been better than doing it the illegal way, which is crazy because if you're doing it illegal and it is still illegal, how would you have approved it if it was done? That's confusing to me. I guess sometimes doing it the right way might actually be the right way to do it, but wrong way at the same time because you're harming people in the process of doing it. We'll keep an eye on this one because I think this story might actually go somewhere. And I have no doubt in my mind that there are probably U.S. officials that are involved in bringing this to United States soil. Whether we like to admit it or not, we're not the same country we were 50 years ago. So let's just put that out there. So in this particular instance, if it links back to anyone that was there before in the 2019, 2020 era of that shutdown we had, watch this to become a big topic of discussion within the next 5-10 years, and probably even the next 5-10 days. Because this might be taking some time to flesh out, but I don't know if we have that long. They might have, considering that they're already here last year and they did something, at least came in. We don't know if it was caught or uncaught. We don't know if it was research or not research. This could flip the entire economy up inside its head. It might seem small, but usually this is how big things start. We'll keep you up to date as soon as we know any more about this.